Okay, good evening everyone, and welcome to the fourth edition of Hildebrand's Briefing Room, where we are going to be looking this week at the era of the over 50s Bonds, stretching from 79 to 85, and I'm joined by at least two other very willing participants, and one who's perhaps grudgingly here to study maybe his least favourite era of the films. We'll see. But introductions now. Our first guest, author of the rather wonderful regular item on Hildebrand, As Long as the Collars and Cuffs Match. Our girl from the north, although I think she's down south now, Amy Briggs.
Hello. Hi.
Okay, and we also have back for a second spell on the Briefing Room, brought back by popular demand, much like Steve Hodge back in the 80s, James Scott.
Hello, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And we have who's a man who's been begging me to be part of this.
Yes.
Whatever he said, whatever happens, make sure I'm there for the late era Roger Moore films. They mean so much to me.
Yeah.
And the man behind the best art since Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh.
It's our group's voice of reason, Ian Lasky.
Pleasure.
Okay, now, as I said, this is the era of the elderly Bonds. So it includes Roger's last appearance, Sean's last appearance, and it's the films from Moonraker through to A View to a Kill, including Never Say Never Again. Now, one of the main reasons for that was we didn't want to split the Daltons, so that was one of the reasons behind it. And we are, remember, asking for the favourite Bond films, not necessarily the best. So these are the ones that mean the most to you. So I'm going to ask to go first, hopefully poised with her piece of paper, to give us her choice at number 5, favourite Bonds from that era. Over to you, Amy.
Well, number 5, first of all, I have to say, I'm really disappointed. I made these special signs, right? And you'll see as it goes along why I'm disappointed. You will see. Ian especially, I think might see. But yes, so, my number 5.
Octopussy. Okay.
Unfortunately, it's Octopussy. I think I've made it quite well known within the group. It's not that I don't hate any Bond film at all, but
it's okay. You are allowed to.
It's just one of those things that you just think, I don't want to hate it.
Yeah.
Because how can you say you hate a Bond film? But for years, it's been one of those. I just don't watch it, and I have recently, and I've got it's all right, but I'll never go back to it as a first choice ever. The reasons why it's probably my least favourite out of these 5, it just feels like there's too many gimmicks, there's too much. I'm not a fan of the clown suit, the gorilla suit. I think it's the start of when Roger starts to look his age, and even though Octopussy herself is very well matched to him, the character of Octopussy she doesn't really do anything that you kind of expecting her to do almost either. I just find myself cringing quite a lot at some of the moments, so that's why it's sort of the lower end. There is some good points, the score is okay, the title song not so much in my opinion, but yeah, so sadly Roger, that is
not even Saved by Boggle-Eyed Orlov.
No, I mean, I love Burkhoff. I adore him. I adore his work, but it just feels like it's just all over, scatty, all over the place, and it doesn't seem to sort of make much sense. Obviously, it does, but you know what I mean. It's kind of, we'll throw that at it, we'll do that, and we'll do it, and it's kind of, it just doesn't sit right with me almost.
So I kind of think that the scene where like the Randy clown is defusing the bomb is actually quite tense.
The scene itself is tense. Yeah. Like, I just don't know. I can't get on board with the
quite clown. A sinister old clown, isn't he? It's quite a sinister. Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's be honest. If you're dashing to the scene where there's a nuclear bomb's about to go off with minutes to go, seconds to go, tens of thousands of people are going to die, the first thing you're going to do is go into a trailer and apply some perfectly applied clown makeup, put on the clothes, and have big floppy shoes and run around in that.
Who's going to take you seriously dressed as a clown? There's a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But it's a fair point because he must have spent a good few hours in that trailer getting himself ready to emerge with only
Yeah.
seconds to spare.
I know.
His contouring, it's on point. You know, he's spent a lot of time. So, yeah.
Has anyone else shared Amy's view
It
of?
won't surprise anybody to know that is my number 5. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But can I just say that I think one of my favourite scenes in any Roger film is in Octopussy. It's where him and Fanning are in the auction scene, and I think it's a great scene. I think it's a really, really good scene. I think the interplay between Moore and an older gentleman, which we see in another film later in the series,
Yeah.
it's just really good. Moore, and I think the opening scene of Octopussy is really good as well. I think it's a really good action, exciting scene.
Yeah.
I agree with Amy and the rest of you that it is one of the weak offerings, but I do like it. It does entertain me.
I mean, I find it striking. I mean, it is fifth, but it was one of those things where I was kind of thinking earlier, I don't like it much except for that bit and except for that bit. So there's a lot about it that I kind of like, but it's sort of they sort of squandered, I thought, what they'd started with For Your Eyes Only, and it was a sort of halfway house between that and the humour, and the humour is sort of dropped in, isn't it? And you suddenly have the Tarzan things and
yeah, exactly. That's the problem with the humour. The humour is, I don't mind silly gags in Bond films and all that. The problem with the humour in this movie is it's dropped in the middle of exciting sequences, and it diffuses all tension or all potential suspense. And the Tarzan thing's interesting because at the end of that scene, when he's getting on the boat having escaped, there is actually one of the best lines, one of the funniest lines I think in the Bond film, where the woman says something, was it, are you with this tour? No, ma'am, I'm with the economy tour. And that's a really good line because that's where you place a good gag at the end of a scene when you've just come through and he survived and phew, now we can have a joke. But, you know, I mean, who decided to actually not only do the Tarzan swinging, but then dub the Johnny Wiseman or actual, I'm just like, oh, please.
I was a kid, though. I loved it.
As a kid, though, you probably loved it, right?
Yeah, but because I loved it when I was a kid, I still like it. It's I get what you're saying, though. I don't disagree, but
I love the bit with Govinda where he does where it says about, I don't suppose you'd like a nightcap. I do really love that bit. That's funny, and it's I don't know. I was going to say, and I think it's I was trying to get my chronology right, but I'm pretty sure that it might have been just before For Your Eyes Only or between For Your Eyes Only and Octopussy where he made the Cannonball Run, and I think in that he sends up Bond a great deal. It's funny, but it's almost like it could be straight out of one of those films.
Yeah.
And you kind of think that things are getting blurred there between Roger, Bond, and this kind of third caricature character that I think is maybe just blurred a little bit. So we have 3 Octopussies. James, what have you got in 4th place?
I am going to be controversial. I like all 5, but on what I enjoy the least, For Your Eyes Only, because it's the one I least go back to. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about that in a little bit. I think I'm Charles in charge of number 4.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be able to do this without saying I'm happiest in the saddle. So my number 4 is A View to a Kill. Now that's a tough one, and I think I have it. There's quite a big gap, a big drop off between that and Octopussy, and part of the reasons why it's in 4th is just because I like the 3 above it a lot. And I would have always said this was probably right down towards the lower end of the Bond films, but I've watched it recently and grown to kind of appreciate it for what it is rather than what it's not. I think aspects of it are very funny. I think I love the relationship between Bond and Tippett. I think that's fantastic. I think it's played really, really well. Christopher Walken is just having a blast, and I love it when you see an actor like that who just thinks, well, it's a bit, Jack Nicholson does it from time to time. Sometimes he goes over the top, but I think Walken's kind of got that bit let off the leash in the film. I'm a bit disappointed towards the end when Mayday suddenly stops being Mayday, because I liked her when she was kind of quite a sinister, powerful female character. I don't mind Stacey at all, actually. I don't have any problems with that whatsoever. The only issue I have with it is, how do you do this to a Bond film when effectively they're much of a muchness in terms of world domination? It does feel like a bit of a recycled storyline. And Roger, bless his heart, by then does look strange. Not bad or good. I just think he looks a little bit strange. If you saw him in the street looking like that, you'd be concerned. Is what I'm saying. But I do like the film. Does anyone else joining me with a view to a kill in fourth place? There it is. No, Amy's not going for a view to kill in fourth place.
I mean, these two, I make no secret of the fact anybody who's talked to me in the group now online. These are my two least favourite Bond films. But I want to put that in context very, very quickly. And it's particularly the case here with A View to a Kill. A View to a Kill was the first Bond film that I saw at the cinema. And it had a huge impression on me, and I loved it. So you're going from watching a Bond film on a pan and scan, small little square TV, to seeing it in a big, glorious widescreen in the cinema. So this was the Bond film that I absolutely loved as a kid. And Octopussy, although I didn't see it in cinema, I rented it, I videoed it off TV, and I watched it over and over and over again. They're two Bond films that I'm very fond of from my childhood. They're just not Bond films, unlike you, James, where you like them from your childhood and so you still like them now. These are two examples of movies that I've gone back to as an adult and just thought, yeah, they don't work for me. But I do agree that The View to a Kill is a bit more fun. And I think it is primarily because of the characters. I mean, Fiona Fullerton's great in it. Why was Fiona Fullerton not the leading Bond lady in this film?
Point. Yeah.
I love Grace Jones anyway, because I just think she's glorious as a human being. And she's somewhat wasted in this film. Christopher Walken's having a ball. Roger Moore's really having a lot of fun in this film. It seems to me he's having a lot of fun. And Patrick Macnee's wonderful. And you do sit there and think, actually, those two should have been in that movie. It should have been the Patrick Macnee and Roger Moore show for most of that film. But then, it'd be, God bless them, two old codgers in a Bond movie. No, I like it, but it is incredibly recycled. We're 13, 14 films in at these points with these two films, and you kind of sense that they're sort of running a little low on steam. Bless them.
Okay.
Is it my time to talk about A View to a Kill?
We're going to save that, James.
No.
We're going to save your moment.
You can lambast our opinions.
We're building up towards the moment when I'll give you a good 5 minutes run at explaining A View to a Kill. Don't you worry about it. Amy, what have you got in fourth?
What have I got in fourth?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. Moonraker. And James, what have you got in fourth?
Octopussy.
Okay. All right, fantastic. We will probably get to Moonraker in a bit, but we're going to move swiftly on to the third place, which is James. What have you got in third place?
Never Say Never Again. I love it. For a long time, I think it probably would have been below Octopussy. But there's certain someone in the top right corner, Alex, has convinced me to really like it. Let me get the bad points out of the way. I really don't like the score. And I really don't like the ending. But Connery is masterful. He is absolutely masterful in it. And for me, it's his best performance. Not his best film, but his best performance. It's almost like the films never went away. It's like he paused 12 years or 13 years or whatever it was between Diamonds and Never Say Never Again. And he just put the toupee on and off he went. And he's just brilliant at it. He's absolutely fantastic. And I can't imagine it working with any other. I can't imagine Lazenby. And I think people say if Connery didn't do it, Lazenby would have done it. Wouldn't have worked. It only works because of Connery. And I think it's got a great cast. There's little things like we watched it on the watch a few months back with on the first film, and things I'd never really noticed before, like when he's with Leiter and he's doing the boxing run. He's behind the cycle and he's pretending to be a boxer, and there's just some really wonderful moments in it. The bit with when he gives the guy pretends he's got the bomb.
Yeah, with the cigar case.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's my understanding, reading about it, is that the director and also the music, they very much treated it as if it was a complete one-off and didn't want to use previous sort of Bonds as a blueprint. But with the music, it's very hit and miss. I think I agree with you on that one.
It's kind of a damned if they do and damned if they don't, though, isn't it, really? Because if they try and do a Barry-esque score or whatever, then they're going to, it's just a copy of Barry, isn't it, really? And then they try and maybe do it of its time, which I think that's kind of what they were going with, possibly. But there's bits of it, like the, I can't pronounce it properly. The Amour song I'm not even going to try.
That one.
Quite like that bit. That's quite like in the massage scene and stuff like that. There's little bits that are right, and I don't mind the title song either. I actually quite like the title song. But
Amy, what are your views of the slap bass that's used in the scene where he's sort of canoodling with Domino whilst being watched by Lecce Largo behind the mirror?
What's my views on what?
Yeah,
sorry?
it's like a slap bass thing going on. It's particularly seedy. It really is. And he sort of looms over her in quite a There's bits.
You've watched this scene a few too many times, haven't you, Alex?
Yeah, I have, and I've watched. He makes that noise in the massage parlour as well. That's sort of like.
Certainly does.
He does, yeah. But okay. So James, we've got you with Never Say Never Again in third. Anyone else got Never Say Never Again in third?
No.
Okay. Ian, did you want to add anything about that film? I may be talking about it later.
Yeah, no, I'll keep it brief. This is one of the ones that, when I was as a kid, again, I hated it and the reason I hated it was because, well, no, I didn't hate it, that's too strong, but I said I wasn't going to like it because it wasn't a proper Bond film, because it wasn't, I was aware, obviously, that there were these two Bond films going on. I kind of understood that there was a proper Bond film, as it were, air quotes, and a rogue, unofficial one coming on. And because I think what Never Say Never Again does prove is there are a lot of elements to the Bond films beyond just simply being based on a Fleming novel and having an actor who started the role that made something feel like a Bond film. Like, you're talking about the music, you're talking about the gun barrel, lots of things that they probably wouldn't have been able to use. There's no way they could have used the gun barrel and stuff like that. Although I did think they tried to get John Barry for it. I seem to recall reading that somewhere, but he turned it down. Maybe I got that wrong. But there is a lot of things. There's a lot of flavour that's not there, and it did have something of a shambolic production. You can kind of sense, and I totally agree. I think it does. It's not a good film once you get to the third act.
Yeah.
The third act of the film feels a bit, it doesn't quite stick the landing. But as I've grown up, and as I've gotten older, I've realised the whole idea of it not being a proper Bond film is just complete nonsense. It's a Bond film. It just happens to be made by different people. And actually, I think it has got one of the best casts in terms of the main villain, the villainess. I think they're superb. I don't have a lot of love for the original Thunderball anyway, so by remaking it, it's not like you're treading on sacred ground to me. And I do like the fact, and I wish they'd have kind of done it with the Roger Moore ones at this time, that they're actually allowing Connery to be older.
Yeah.
They're actually allowing him to play his age. He's still James Bond. He's still super cool, but he's feeling the niggles a bit. He's got to cut down on the high cholesterol food and all this. And I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
And I think that the difference between this and, say, Octopussy and View to a Kill in terms of the humour is the humour in Never Say Never Again feels like it's a little bit more adult, a little bit cheekier, it's a little bit more, little bit edgier, whereas the humour in the Roger Moore ones felt like they were going for kids, more of a family audience. So yeah, I agree. It's not great. It's certainly got some pretty questionable moments to it, and there is a part of me that wishes that they would have been able to have made a completely original story as they originally intended to, but obviously, of course, legally they weren't allowed. I would have loved to have seen the script with the robot sharks going through the New York sewers and all that. But yeah, Connery's having a blast in this, and he's loving every minute, and I now enjoy him enjoying being Bond in that film.
Okay. We may return to Never Say Never Again a little later, but Amy, what have you got in third place?
Oh.
Okay, I've got...
Yeah.
Oh. You mean that's not your number one?
No.
I can't imagine what would be, though.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, so we'll probably get back to certainly that film in a minute. So we're going to go to second place, and I think we're going with Ian.
Okay, I've just got to launch this piece of paper. Moonraker.
Yeah, nice.
I think I said on the first one, the first briefing room, where we were talking about the first 5 Connery Bond films, that my entry to the Bond films was through science fiction. And in particular, it was through this movie. I don't know if this is the first Bond film that I actually saw, because there's every chance I've probably caught parts of another Bond film on TV before it. But this is the first Bond film that I remember being very much aware of and really enjoying. And, you know, I was watching Star Wars and, you know, Battlestar Galactica and all of that, you know, Superman, Flash Gordon. So suddenly there's this super spy movie with a guy that jumps in a real life space shuttle, because they're real, and goes up into space and blasts people with lasers. And yeah, totally into it as a kid. This is a case, going back to what we said earlier, this is a case of one where my fondness as a kid has gone with me into adulthood. It's ludicrous. It's utterly bonkers. But I think it's really well made. And I don't think this film is any more silly in terms of its concept than The Spy Who Loved Me. I don't think there's anything particularly sillier about wanting to start a master race in orbit versus wanting to be under the sea with the fishes. You know what I mean? They're both comic strip Bond movies, but they're both really well done. And I think this Moonraker is, I know we're not talking about Spy Who Loved Me in this one, but Moonraker edges it for me over those two films because I just like the actors in it a bit more. Drax is really cool. You know,
he really seems to. He doesn't like a lot of the villains have got this sort of contempt for Bond. He seems to genuinely hate him.
Yeah.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's got this sort of like just this real hatred of him that it's fantastic.
Yeah, and what I like about it is that one of the things I don't like about Stromberg in the previous film to this is that there's no point in it where I feel he actually wakes up and gets a performance. You know, it's just so flat.
Yeah.
Whereas in this movie, you suddenly get an outburst. And so up to this point, he's been really cool and sly and calm and very debonair. And then suddenly, boom, there's real anger. And I like that. I mean, it's comic strip Bond movie. This could be the Marvel version of a James Bond movie in some respects, a sort of late 70s, early 80s Marvel version of a Bond movie. It's very broad strokes storytelling, but I really enjoy it, even if it has got a double-taking pigeon in it, which is still better than a double-taking camel in an Octopussy. But yeah, I mean, and the Barry score is one of the best in the series. The song's not so great, but the score is lovely.
Oh, I like the song.
See, I really like the song too.
Yeah, but only the disco version at the end.
It's my favourite Shirley Bassey. Except
Sorry?
Forever. I love it. I prefer it to Goldfinger.
Do you?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I love it. I really like
I love it too, but
I think your video feed's been hacked. Alex. You're saying something that...
Yeah, I've got it at number 2 as well.
Oh.
Moonraker.
Do you know, the other thing about it is the special effects at the end of that movie are really top notch.
And the space shuttle hadn't even...
No.
NASA hadn't even launched the space shuttle at that point.
81, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think from the moment he's hurtling through the air like some geriatric human cannonball at the beginning, flying through the air, you got Jaws still in his weird trousers,
Yes.
saved by a circus, which is just bizarre. And then I just love it. I love that film. It reminds me of Christmas. It reminds me of being a kid. It reminds me of, and I think the first half of it actually is as strong as any half of a Bond film. It's quite sinister. I mean, the
dogs,
like the Dobermans, or whatever they are. God, that's horrible. What a horrible scene. And
And this
Even
goes
though I
back to
know the trainers, it's still horrible.
yeah. And this goes back to what I've said before, is that I think Lewis Gilbert is very underrated as a Bond director. I think he actually is one of the best directors. It's just that he took it in a very fantastical and as far away from Fleming as you could kind of approach. But he directs, each of his films have really, really well-directed sequences that stand up today. And it's beautifully shot. I mean, I'd probably, lose the gondola and Dolly. But, but that's a small price to pay for an otherwise thoroughly enjoyable film.
Wasn't that because the kids liked Jaws so much? They wanted him to be good. Yeah. Yeah. Is that
actually a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah. Don't even think about don't think about them as a couple. It's not worth thinking about.
It's anatomically perplexing.
Yeah, it's terrible. Is it the one where he pulls the steering wheel off?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, I'll make a slight correction. The special effects once they get into space are superb. The rear projection for the rest of the movie, not so superb.
Yes. Yeah, I'd agree with that. So I've got Moonraker in second. James, what have you got in second place?
Moonraker.
A lot of love for Moonraker.
I concur with what you've already said. I like Chan as a henchman.
Yeah.
Although I don't get that he'd be walking through Venice in complete samurai gear, completely unnoticed.
No.
But like you say, you leave your brain at the foyer, don't you, on these sort of films, and just enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I've also had a bit of a problem with the fact that Bond goes to Rio based purely on the fact that he sees a cargo box with Rio stamps on it.
No, that's Sherlock Holmes level deduction. That.
Yeah. Which is great because Drax dresses like Sherlock Holmes for quite a large section of the film, or Lowly Worm. I don't know which one he's dressed as. But
that's what I mean. This is we're in the era of it as broad strokes plotting. Yeah. We're clearly at the point where they've said, let's have a really good action sequence here. I've got an idea for a stunt here. We'll do that. Okay, let's just sort of string it together with the story, and it works in this case. I think you don't need anything too much, but yeah, it's very, very kind of basic plotting.
I would like to add that I think Roger looks brilliant in Moonraker.
He does.
Yeah, I think he probably looks almost his best in Moonraker.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Well, it's the moment. It's like the last moment of his sideways hair, isn't it? Before. Yeah.
Gosh,
So he's still got the sort of his hairdo from the original or the older films or his previous films. And
I know you want to bill it as the Battle of the 50s Bonds, but I think like I just said, I think Roger, if you're going on actors in the 50s, Roger looks great. What was it, 51, 52?
Yeah.
I think it was fantastic. But then it goes a bit Pete Tong, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know what he was up to in the 4 years between that and Octopussy, but a lot.
A lot of hard living.
Probably the answer to that. But he's got that bit where he's in his, I don't know why, when he's sort of lurking around with his little camera in Drax's French Californian castle.
Yeah.
And he's in black. He looks fantastic in that sequence.
Great.
Yeah.
And you've forgotten the one important detail there. He's got a little camera with 007 written.
He has. His own personalised camera. It's a wonderful thing.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay. And you've got two of the best lines.
oh,
Yes.
yeah, yes.
A
yeah.
woman, and did I?
Yes, brilliant.
Sorry, James, I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to say that a lot is said about Moore and his leading ladies, and I think they get it right with Lois Charles in this. A similar sort of age, they look good together.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good pairing.
And she can, sorry, I was going to say, and she is a character who can do something that Bond can't do, which is she can fly a space shuttle, and they let her.
Mm.
You know, and he's totally respectful of that, which is really nice. I mean, yeah, I'd like to see more of that era.
Yeah. I'm not being funny, Ian. I reckon I could fly a space shuttle.
Well, going from that film,
Just
yeah,
a joystick.
yeah.
It's like a Nintendo space shuttle. Brilliant. Okay, we're missing Amy. We haven't got your second place film.
Oh,
Again.
I see what you've done there. I was planning on doing that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and I got that done, and I got Octopussy. I couldn't find any of the others.
And literally, that's why I'm disappointed, because these ones, even though you can't see them as well, right, they look better in the pencil, but then I got the Sharpie out and I've ruined the one, so I'm
it's a
really
tricky
upset
thing,
with myself.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
Okay, well, you've sort of discussed Never Say Never Again a bit, but I think we're at that point where we probably need to unveil our top films, don't we? We need to say what number one is. Okay.
oh,
See
hello.
you.
Is this a tattoo this time?
This is not a subtle shirt.
Wow.
Look at this.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's there. So yeah, Never Say Never Again for me. Hang on, I better hold it up, otherwise people won't. Whoa. We haven't really talked. Well, what we'll do is we'll talk about For Your Eyes Only, and then probably what will happen is you'll just leave me and James to talk endlessly about our number one films long into the night. You know, you'll have got and we'll just edit that bit out. But okay, For Your Eyes Only. We haven't really discussed For Your Eyes Only. I had it as number 3. Got a couple of number ones there. Amy, For Your Eyes Only.
It's beautiful. I love it. I think in recent times, I can't remember who I was having a conversation with, but very recently, I've always thought that Spy was his best. But the more I watch For Your Eyes Only, the more I think it's his best film. I think it has more of the grittier side to Roger's Bond, and as much as I know some people think that Melina isn't that amazing as a Bond girl, but I think she's beautiful. I think she's exactly what she needs to be. Passionate, you know. It's just a beautiful film. Lots of moments, some amazing actors. Julian Glover, Topol, beautiful. I think it's just a wonderful film, and I really enjoy it. And after Roger died, and when I got the chance to go and took myself off on my own into the cinema in Manchester and just watched back to back Spy and For Your Eyes Only, and it was just amazing to see it on the big screen, and just fell in love with it even more at that point as well. It's just a great film, and the score. I think the score's brilliant too. I know I'm a massive Barry fan, but I think, I enjoy it all.
It's I think if the question had been out of the 5, what's the best of the 5, I probably would have said For Your Eyes Only.
It's the best written of this 5, I think. It's got the best story. It's got the best plot. It incorporates, is it a couple, maybe more, Fleming short stories very well into the film. I don't normally give a lot of praise to John Glenn because he's not my favourite director, but I think he does an absolutely cracking job with this movie. And you kind of sense that you kind of realise this is the first-time director who's been working behind the scenes, you know, editing, doing great work in second unit. He's finally got the chance to direct a Bond movie, and he throws everything he's got into this. And I think he does it brilliantly. I think I love the action sequences in this movie, I feel escalate really well. You know, you've got, starting off that kind of cross-country skiing, then you've got the ski jump sequence, which is really quite suspenseful. it unveils into a full-on, ski chase with motorbikes and then down the toboggan. Everything kind of escalates brilliantly. And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't like Octopussy that much. I think Octopussy feels like it's made it's only his second film as a director, and it feels like everything's perfunctory in that movie. Whereas he's put all the effort into this movie, and I think he does the same with later on with Living Daylights. I feel for Fiore's Only and Living Daylights feel like very close bedfellows. Yeah. They're both kind of espionage thrillers rather than big action movies.
Yeah.
Topol's brilliant in it. I do like the more grounded characters in it. I even like Bibi because she brings a bit of zing into it that if she wasn't there, I think the film would be quite dour. And so she's got a bit of energy. Okay, I tend to maybe nowadays turn off a few minutes from the end and not watch Margaret Thatcher. But okay, I do. I put up with it. But that's a bit of silliness. But again, it comes at the end of the movie, and the films kind of deserve. It's earned the right to have a bit of silliness at the end of the movie. No, it's a top film. It's definitely Roger Moore's best.
It's one of those rare ones as well, isn't it? Where actually, I mean, the ski lift scene, ski jump lift scene is really, really. You're right. Quite scary actually. It's quite if you feel he's in genuine peril, and I love the cliff climb, the rock climbing scene at the end. Again, very very simple, but hugely effective. Where you actually you genuinely fear for his life, which doesn't tend to happen very often in the Roger Moore films. So I think it's a really fantastic film. I like Topol in that as well. I think he's a fantastic character, and I think Roger does a pretty good job of the Fleming Bond. And what I was going to say is those scenes are more exciting than the pre-title sequence, which doesn't always happen. It's quite a rare thing where the pre-title sequence actually it's quite an odd one, isn't it? You kind of got on Her Majesty's brought in from the cold. You've got Blofeld returned, and then just that weird dump down a chimney thing.
And that weird line about the stainless steel delicatessen, whatever. Yeah. No one really understands what that means. Yeah, no, I agree. Totally. I agree with that. It doesn't work.
James, it's your least favourite.
It's my least favourite because when I was a kid, you've got Spiraled Me, Moonraker, Octopussy, View to a Kill, Roger's really outrageous, flamboyant best. And when I was a kid, For Your Eyes Only wasn't that. And I don't mind admitting it. I'm not a literal Bond fan. I'm a film fan. I'm a fan of the films more than the books. So I don't know. I'm sure For Your Eyes Only to those sort of fans is fantastic, but I just never really got on with it. I like the beginning. I think it's great fun, and I like the end for some reason. But the top and tail of the film doesn't sit with the rest of the film, does it? It's sort of like, well, where did they? You've got Moonraker, which was flamboyant, and then the beginning of For Your Eyes Only carries on with that, and then it goes, really straight and serious, and then at the end it's back to Roger Moore again.
I'm not sure. I mean, I respect your opinion. I'm not entirely sure I agree with that because I think the 2CV car chase is actually quite fun and frivolous.
Yeah.
I mean, I do agree. I think it's probably his least glossy and glamorous Bond film, but then I think that fits the kind of Cold War vibe of it. But I can understand why people think it's not one of the best looking Bond films. The cinematography's a bit flat, but I don't mind that. I quite like it.
And I suppose that I was kind of thinking, because again, which is the best of the five? Probably For Your Eyes Only. But the reason Moonraker and Never Say Never Again came higher for me is if I had the choice which of those to never watch again, the prospect of not watching Moonraker again compared with For Your Eyes Only, then I would want to watch Moonraker. I just think it's more fun. And I know that's, a kind of very, very basic thing to say, but I want the Bond films to be fun. And I think Moonraker is a great deal of fun. For Your Eyes Only is probably a much better film, but just not one that I can feel as much affection about, I guess.
Yeah. I think what Ian said about the Citroen CV, I do like that scene. I love the fact that he's got the Lotus and you've got to think on his wits. I do like that scene.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something about it that's just never engaged me.
I think like it's quite nice. The stuff with BB as well is quite nice because it does show that age almost, that where maybe a few films back she may have been, but not. She's very mature, so you can't really imagine Bond ever being, you know. But I think it does as well. It attempts to sort of say, you know, like no, I'm getting a bit for this kind of thing. That's sort of the young girls throwing themselves at him. But she is obviously more to the sort of the, no, she's far too mature for that. But I like that it touches on it ever so slight. But then again, obviously we go into Octopussy and Views to a Kill, and that's kind of forgotten about. So I don't know. I just
I agree with that. I mean, it would have been interesting if they'd kind of continued that on with the next ones. And I really like the scene with Cassandra Harris.
Oh, great!
You know, that's a really good scene, and it's one of the very few Roger Moore bed scenes that I actually kind of am okay. I think it's quite good.
Yeah.
Well, he looks relaxed.
Yeah,
he actually looks like
a genuine kind of.
Yeah, he actually looks like he's having a good night.
Yeah,
just doing it because, you know. But he looks like he connects with her almost. You know what I mean?
There's chemistry between the
chemistry.
And it's I really like that scene.
And it reminds me of the scene with Fiona Fullerton in A View to a Kill, because it feels like there's actual genuine chemistry between those two actors.
Genuinely,
yeah, that's a good choice. Okay, James. Your number one film, A View to a Kill. Go, James. Go.
Well, I absolutely love it. I don't think that's a secret. I get what everybody says, that he's too old. But when I was a kid, it was Roger Moore as James Bond. And it's never has bothered me. It just never bothered me. I love the Bond girls in it. I think they all look great. Christopher Walken's just having an absolute blast. I think Roger Moore's having a blast. I think Roger Moore, I think he knew that this was probably going to be his last. And
even Octopussy, to be fair. But...
yeah, I love the fact that when they go out to Ascot as well, it's like this is going to be the last of the old crew all together in one scene. I love Patrick Macnee. They definitely got that right. That can't be argued. That chemistry, and I think Ian said it earlier that he's killed off too early in the film. Really.
Yeah.
But Bond looks like he really cares about that.
Yeah.
It does look like he's lost a friend, and I think that's really, you know, you compare that to, From Russia with Love, where another one of his great friends has died, and he seems to forget that within about 10 seconds, doesn't he? Just sort of like, sort the corpse out or whatever he comes up with. At least Bond in this looks like he cares that he's lost a friend. I think it's a good relationship there.
I love that scene also where he's gone in the Rolls Royce, hasn't he? And he's getting air from the tyre. I love that Bond's thinking on his wits in that.
Yeah.
I know that from being on the groups for about 6 years now, everybody seems to, who, if you don't like A View to a Kill, you absolutely really hate it. And what normally gets thrown at me is Fleming would be spinning his grave. I've never really bought into that. I was 9 years old. I went to see it. I'd seen him at the cinema before, and he was James Bond. And I've never had a problem with it.
Did you, when you're a kid though, I don't remember as a kid kind of, the Roger Moore films were, if a Roger Moore film came on, it was just a Roger Moore Bond film. It wasn't, you weren't there thinking, he's old in that one, he's young in that one. It was just like...
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of retrospective reviews going on about it, isn't there? You know, he was too old, he shouldn't have been Bond, he should have quit in Pure Eyes Only. And I didn't think that when I was 9. And I still don't think it now. No. I think he was really comfortable in the role. He was too old for the part, but he was having great fun, and the chemistry with Walken as well.
Yeah,
I think he's just.
I quite like the fact you've got a younger villain, older Bond. I quite like that. I think that's quite a nice little twist, really.
Well, one of the best reviews I've ever read is from you, Alex, where you say about like there's like this sort of like old vintage thing going on. So you've got a really old Bond and all the money Maxwell for the last time, and then you've got like pure 1985. So you've got Grace Jones, Duran Duran, Christopher Walken, Fiona Fuller, and it's like
kind of it jars, doesn't it? But in quite a good way. It's just like, if in doubt, stick some neon on and let's get Duran Duran blasting.
Yeah,
that's great for the kids. But I like it. I do like A View to a Kill, and I love how much you love it.
Well, I when we went to Pinewood last, does everybody know we went to Pinewood? I've just dropped that one in. Me and Alex went to Pinewood last year, and and I got to meet John Glenn, and I told him that I love A View to a Kill, and he shook my hand when you could shake someone else's hand, and he said thank you, and it was just a really, really, really nice moment, and one that will stay with me for a long time. So.
Yeah.
I have that sort of sentimentality from when I was little. I think that's maybe why I love it. I do love it. I felt bad sort of putting it in that lower ring of my rankings, to be fair, because I can see it's not great, but there's so many elements that I absolutely adore about it. And I used to watch it at my godparents' house. It was like a weird thing, and it seemed to always be on when we went there. It probably wasn't, but when you remember that, I remember it now, and I think I just love watching it. Like, I don't have a particular problem with Stacey as such. I just think she wasn't written very well. It's not
acted very well.
That she wasn't. Yeah, I feel sorry for her because but I don't mind her, but I know that she's not great. Again, I love Christopher Walken; he's just outstanding. Grace Jones is fabulous, but yeah, I have a sentimental like sort of feeling about it, but I know that it's not great. The score is brilliant; it's a beautiful send off. John Barry obviously was like there's those beautiful bits at the Golden Gate that are just stunning. So yeah,
I mean,
sorry, Ian, carry on.
No, go on. You should still be waxing lyrical.
Well, my last point on it is that a lot of the fans on the groups, like I say, seem to really, really dislike it. And then when I meet Joe Public, they always talk to me about A View to, they're not Bond fans, but they remember A View to a Kill. They remember Grace Jones. It's the theme song. Someone at work didn't realise I was a Bond fan, and the first film we mentioned by complete coincidence was A View to a Kill. It seems to last long in the memory just because it's a fun film.
Yeah.
Well, it's also because the time that the age that you were that you saw it.
Yeah.
It's in many respects. These are. I know I can speak for at least three of us. These are the Bond films of our youth. And they imprint. And that's how I look at Octopus and Beauty Kill. I look at them as Bond films that I enjoyed at that time, and I had a lot of enjoyment at that time. It's just that, for me personally, my tastes have just slightly changed as I've gotten older, and they don't work as well for me now. But I'm fine with that, and I had a lot of fun with those films, and that's a good thing, And I don't think you can realistically look at a film series that gets to this length of time and expect every movie to be top notch. They are going to get a bit repetitive. So I fully accept that. But yeah, I just wish sometimes, looking back on it, I do wish that it's not that I mind Roger Moore being that age in A View to a Kill or Octopus. It's more the fact that they still are trying to get him to do the stuff that a 35, 40, 42-year-old should be doing. And you kind of go, you could have just...
I mean, that would probably be my only big criticism of the film, really, is that when it came to the cutting between... I mean, it's quite funny, but when it came to cutting between the stunts and the actors, they don't even look like they're trying to disguise the fact that it's not Roger Moore anymore. It's like it, and to me, that there are bits where that just feels a bit lazy, I guess, a bit like, taking the audience for granted. Oh, we'll just shove anyone in a like Roger Moore type wig, and then we'll just cut to Roger.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It is funny. Yeah, but it's that's some of that. I mean, the bits in Paris, you think, it's just clearly, it's not even like they're, yeah, it's just clearly not him. But you know, that's it's a minor quibble, and it's far outweighed by the things that I do enjoy about it. So it's just me with my favourite film now.
Isn't time running out?
No, there's plenty of time.
The time.
There's plenty of time. But I won't go on about it too much. But some of the things that you said, I feel the same way about this film. It was the first film I saw at the cinema, as in Bond film I saw at the cinema, and only probably second or third film that I remember actually sort of properly, rather than just being a kid taken to see The Jungle Book or something. And it was a really horrible cinema I went to, but it was a kind of a bit of a kind of, you know, life moment, if you like, a kind of one of those core memories. And I went with my dad, and he was kind of like semi-ecstatic about the fact that the real James Bond had come back to play James Bond, rather predictable. But it was great. And as a kid, I wasn't there thinking, where's the gun barrel? I wasn't there thinking, I just really loved it. It was one of those kind of rare occasions which I can remember really well. And I just love Sean Connery, and I think he gives a really balanced performance in that. I think, you know, I'll never get his name right, but Klaus Marie Brandeur is a fantastic Largo. And I was saying the other day, you know, it's really odd. It's that he's quite normal about his day job. When he's doing anything to do with being inspector, he's quite normal. The moment Domino's involved, he's a complete psychopath. And I love the fact that he is psychopathic about that one thing. So it's kind of this weird narcissistic relationship that he's got going on. So he's fantastic. Max von Sydow's fantastic as Blofeld. I just wish he was in it more. You know, I can forgive, you know, your Rowan Atkinsons and things like that are kind of dropped in. I can see what you're doing there, Ian Lasky.
He's the one sour performance for me.
It's a strange bit. It's strange that he's in there, and it's strange that he's overacting so obviously. But the fight in Shrublands, I love.
Pat Roach.
Yeah, I really like Kim Basinger. I really like her in that. Not as much as I like Barbara Carrera, who's absolutely off the scale as Fatima Blush.
Standing.
You know, absolutely off the scale. You know, that last scene is one of my favourite scenes, like where she explodes. And actually, you know, if I'm being honest, probably the film should have stopped there.
Yes.
You know, Fatima explodes.
That's it, done. So.
Because I do agree, I think it was James who said, I do agree that the last, apart from the bit at the end where he's going into retirement, I think that's lovely. And I think that breaking of the fourth wall is 100 times better than George. But the sort of half hour leading up to that is various people in swimsuits who you can't really tell what they're doing. Just, you know, if I'm there having to squint to see how many stripes are on a swimsuit, it's fairly difficult to work out who's who or what's going on. And you've kind of got that weird, almost Indiana Jones-like set towards the end, which doesn't, I don't think, work particularly well. So if it wasn't for the last half hour, it would be right up there with the, you know, the glories of Diamonds Are Forever, you know, and all the other. Oh no, that's got a bad ending as well, isn't it? But it doesn't matter. I love it. I love it because it's Sean. I like vintage, older Sean, and it's a fairly magic film to me.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that Bernie Casey's good in it.
Oh yes.
How ballsy it was back in the early 80s to cast a character like that with an actor.
And Sean had control of the casting.
Yeah.
So they were his ideas, which I like.
Yeah.
He ended up more or less directing and producing it, didn't he? Really?
Yeah, apparently. I mean, from everything that I've read and heard about it, it wasn't a good, happy shoot. I think that's one of the things that does surprise me a bit when you do watch it. I mean, I do think it's got a lot of strengths, but its weakness is that it doesn't look like a movie that costs as much money as it does.
No.
There's something slightly. I keep wanting to use the word shambolic about it. I love the also 80s video game. You know,
World Domination.
Yeah, Bond playing a video game and getting electrocuted. That's just so cool.
It's brilliant. That's
brilliant.
The sequence throughout that casino is fantastic. From doing the tango, world domination. Then you realise Largo really is mental, and you start to fear for him slightly. But I love they sort of sneak the gun barrel in, don't they, via the world domination game, which I think is
They do.
really great. I just wish.
And also at Shrublands as well, when they've got the scope
Yeah.
on him.
Yeah.
That's more like a nod to the gun barrel.
Yeah, that worked. I mean, I think one of the things that actually is quite difficult is for people who say it's not a Bond film. It had to stick to Fleming, and
Yeah.
actually, that's one of the things that maybe it could have done without, is the having to stick to Fleming, because actually, for me, it's not the greatest Fleming story anyway. And the fact that they probably, as Ian said, they would have taken some bigger risks, and had sharks with laser beams around the Statue of Liberty, which would have
Frickin'
been
lasers.
perfect. But not allowed, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's why Never Say Never Again is my number one.
It's wonderful fun, isn't it? It really is. I just
Be
love the
honest,
fact. Yeah.
all five of those films are, and
Yeah.
I think they're good fun, but yeah, probably not masterpieces maybe, but certainly our childhood, which is great.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. No.
What would people say? I mean, I'd say out of those five, if I had to objectively say what the best one was, it would probably be For Your Eyes Only.
Yeah,
People's views.
Yeah.
I agree.
James is going to stick to A View to a Kill. I know.
I'm going to stick. Well, objectively, I am going to stick to A View to a Kill.
which certainly should have won at least 6 Oscars that year.
Did it not? I thought it did.
No, I think it only won 5.
Well, Christopher Walken won an Oscar. Maybe not for that film, but he did win an Oscar.
Well, Sean Connery won an Oscar, didn't he?
Kim Basinger won an Oscar.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And that's it, isn't it? Anyone else? Max von Sydow, he must have won an Oscar.
Oh yeah, Matt. Yeah, for sure.
Loads of Oscars.
Loads of Oscars. Oscars coming out of your Siddals.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you. I'm not going to use the catchphrase this week because nothing's original, is it?
Never say
Can't use
never.
that catchphrase anymore. But thank you. I want to thank everyone who's turned up this week. Amy Briggs, hopefully we haven't put you off and you will come back again.
Of course I will.
James Scott, you got to talk about A View to a Kill.
Love it. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
And Ian Lasky, you got to talk about A View to a Kill.
An Octopussy. I'm so happy.
We're going to do an Octopussy special at some point, and just all things Octopussy.
I will quite happily do a running commentary track to that film.
That would be good.
Quite
Really good.
happily do it.
Yeah, that's really good of you. Okay, thanks everyone, and see you next time on the Briefing Room.
Laters.